back to the Reset Mantra with me, Sabina Maharjan. In today's episode, we will be talking about all things relationship. Please join me in welcoming my guest today, Sunaina Sharma. Sunaina, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Sabina. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to begin.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So, Sunaina, for those of our listeners who don't know who you are, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have been in elementary education. I've been teaching the little ones for over 9 years, and I'm still teaching. I'm teaching middle schoolers and high schoolers, really supporting them with social, emotional, and mental health. And relationships have been so important to me since I was a little girl, like family, friendships, and just, finding the right partner. So I, questioned myself a lot growing up. Should I start this podcast that I'm also a part of, or should I put myself out there? And I would say I started a few years ago, but then I would be so nervous and scared. So I would put, like, anytime I would upload a video, I would just take it down due to, fear and thinking, oh, maybe it's not good. And what are people going to think? And I would say, fast forward now, being 34 years old, and all the wisdom I've gained through friendships and the relationship I'm in currently, I've just gained a lot of wisdom. So I just want to spread awareness and help support people.
That's wonderful. And I was telling you just before we hit the record button that relationship is such a important topic in
Yeah.
especially in today's age and today's generation. I was doing some research in preparation for the podcast, and I came across this TED Talk research, and I believe it was forgot his name. Here's the note that I just found. So
Mhm.
according to a Harvard research, when asked what makes a good life, it was all about relationships, the kind of relationships that we have in social context, the kind of meaning, the kind of meaningful relationships we have. And it's also related to the longevity of life and overall well-being, right? So relationships, I think, are definitely the foundation of our life, if I may say.
Yeah.
And I understand that you are a podcaster yourself and a peaceful Zen, right?
So I switched to the Love Atlas now because I dove into strictly relationships.
Oh, okay. I love that name, Love
Yeah, thank
Atlas.
you. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Love Atlas. Yeah, thank you.
Mm. So tell us a little bit more about your podcast and what you're doing, you're trying to do through your podcast, the kind of mission that you have, and what inspired you to create a podcast that's focused specifically on relationships.
So basically, I would just say I have such amazing friends in my life, and all my friends are so passionate about the topic of relationships as you are. And same with me. And, whenever we get together, we go for a hike or just go for a walk and grab coffee. That's strictly what we talk about.
Mm.
It comes down to talking about relationships, or when your emotions and when you're unhappy, and what can we do to improve ourselves, and what are the things that are bothering us about our life at the moment. So these are the topics that we've always discussed. So I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, these are the topics I'm discussing with my friends, so why not have a podcast and spread the awareness and have people learn through it. So now recently I had a podcast with a therapist. He's an old friend of mine, and he transitioned into, he was thinking about becoming an attorney, and now he's a therapist, and he gave a lot of tips. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, a lot of people have so much wisdom, and relationships are such a big part and a pivotal part of everyone's life. So why not make ourselves happy by learning more and more about all these concepts and improve ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So that's the reason why I transitioned into it. And honestly, it has been helping me so much as well. My growth over the last 4 or 5 months just within myself has been even shocking to me, where I'm like, oh my goodness, I've learned so much over the last 4 or 5 months just talking to people and
Mm,
learning so much through individuals like you. And, you know, and whether someone is listening or not, to me, that's not as important at the moment. What matters to me the most is that I'm learning and growing, because someone, even if you make a difference when it comes to one person, that's ultimately what matters to me.
yeah, I think that last sentence that you said, right? If it only makes difference to one person who's listening, that's all that matters. And often we get hung up in this, bigger, better questions of how am I going to make an impact or who's going to listen to me? There's millions of podcasts out there. But
Yeah.
hey, I found you, right?
Exactly. We found each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. And as I was telling you before, as human beings, we're social creatures and we are wired for connection. Um, I'm curious to know from your experience or based on what you've learned so far in your personal life or, just interacting with those various experts, what are some of the things that they tell you or that you've learned are crucial factors in developing a meaningful, a good relationship, right? It could be
Yeah.
friendship, it could be a relationship with a stranger, right? Just having a coffee chat on a subway, could be while you're traveling, or could be at work. What are some of the things that you think are important to build a genuine relationship, I would say, or at least some kind of meaningful relationship?
Yeah, I would say honestly, I mean, there's so many different factors, but one thing that stands out to me as soon as you ask that question would be being genuine.
Mm,
If you're genuine, you're going to attract the right people into your life. And when you know yourself, and when you have already done the work or you're doing the work, you'll attract the right tribe, right? And I know a lot of times people say communication is key, and absolutely it is key. But I came across this amazing author, and I had a podcast with her earlier, and she told me that sometimes silence is the key. And silence, as in processing your emotions. Oftentimes, we think that, oh, I need to be a good communicator. I need to be able to get this point across to this person. But sometimes just silence and saying less goes a really long way. And if you're able to process your emotions at a deep level, then the other person will eventually be able to see the good in you as well, right?
mm,
Because oftentimes we're so insecure, we're confused about ourselves, and we project that energy. So just being genuine goes back to that, and being true to yourself, because when you're true to yourself, then you will attract the right tribe. And um, when you know yourself, uh, you're able to attract true people into your life as well, I would
mm.
say.
Those are really like a profound factors that you mentioned there, starting with, how we process our emotions and the kind of relationship that we have within us, right? Before we establish that with someone else. If
Yeah,
we are in peace, that secure relationship with ourselves, then we probably wouldn't project onto others. Could be friendship, romantic, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty deep, actually. I
yeah.
think in my experience, I found that there's direct correlation between my relationship with me to the relationship that I've been able to create in the external world. The more meaningful and deeper relationship that I have with myself,
Yeah,
the more connected that I am with myself, the deeper the relationships externally, right? The
right,
external relationships get. So,
right. And
yeah.
you're not going to settle for less than. When you have a good relationship with yourself, you'll pretty much have the answers in front of you. Where I think when I was younger, I would question my friendships a lot, thinking like, oh, should I be friends with this person? This person kind of has done certain things to betray me. And I would always be, up and down when it comes to my friendships. And fast forward now, we have boundaries, right? When you have boundaries and you know where you stand, then you're not going to settle for less. You're going to, when you know yourself really, really well, you're going to make sure that the other person meets you there as well.
That's really true, actually. I've definitely been in that spot, especially in my 20s, when I had this friendships since I was like friendships since high school, and I continued to be friends, knowing that they were crossing the boundaries or not being respectful. But then in my heart, I would think, okay, well, we've been friends for a long time. It's okay. But
Yeah.
I think at one point, like you said, you have to draw that line and have that strong boundary to say, okay, this is what I'm going to tolerate, and this is
Yeah.
what I'm going to not tolerate, and value and respect ourselves in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and
Mm.
absolutely. I think when you're younger, you're figuring it out, right? But once you're a bit older and you're wiser, then you are more like at this point, I'm very upfront with people. If something bothers me and hurts me, I am very direct and I'll just be like, hey, this really bothered me and the way you came off really hurt my feelings. I just hope you don't do that again with me. And I feel
Mm.
like it's worked wonders where obviously no one is perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. I also say hurtful things sometimes, but coming across as very open and honest with people, people also respond to that pretty nicely, to be honest. Yeah, it might be a little alarming, like, oh, in the beginning where uh, they might feel like, oh, she's being a little too upfront because people are not used to that.
Mhm.
However, at the end of the day, then people respect that. If one of my friends approached me and told me, hey, Sunana, this really bothered me and it really hurt me. I hope you don't do that again. I will try my best to not do that ever again to that friend because to me, I'll respect that person even more for them to be so open and communicative with me.
I couldn't agree that more, because it brings me portion that I'm trying to cover, culturally speaking, right? A lot of things that we do, I believe, and I'm speaking only for myself, that in my experience as a South Asian from Nepal, I've seen that on in my social circle, that we do a lot of things unintentionally. We're not even conscious, aware of what we're saying, doing. So when we communicate, we bring this certain thing to attention, right? So the people can know, okay, what exactly are we feeling? Um, and they're able to know that. So a lot of times I think it's I I don't know if it would be correct to say a conditioning that we continue to carry from our childhood.
Yeah,
Within relationships, we are expected to just kind of tolerate or compromise. And again, it could be in friendship, family, right? Especially with family, it's hard to kind of put people at distance. They have no choice.
of
So we
course.
continue to think it's okay. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, we all crave connection, right? So that's the reason why we put up with certain things. Because if, as you mentioned earlier, being friends with someone for quite a bit of time, it's really hard to let that person go. And we have that nurture side to us too, where we want to give people chances as well. Because,
Mm.
I mean, at the end of the day, no one is perfect. So it's a bit of a struggle to be like, hey, do I let this friendship go completely, or do I remain friends with this person? So that those are the questions that you really have to, I think, ask yourself and dig a little bit deeper within yourself. And I think uh, as you learn more about yourself, you'll, as I mentioned earlier, stop settling for less.
And this brings me to this. I thought about something that I I think it was some relationship specialist said that a lot of times relationships are a mirror that
Hmm.
triggers us something within us that we need to heal. I
Yeah,
thought that was very profound, and I'm still trying to understand what that means. What do you think about? I think it's
yeah.
Esther Perel. She
Hmm.
said
Hmm.
that relationships are a mirror, and if they're, and especially romantic, probably that's what she meant, right? That
Yeah,
if a partner is triggering, and I'm kind of transitioning to romantic relationship from
yeah,
friendships now, that if
yeah,
a partner is triggering us something, then it's not that person's fault. It's really what we need to heal within ourselves. And it could
yeah.
be we could probably give many meanings to this sentence,
For
but
sure.
what does this mean to you?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. I would say that's absolutely true because first of all, we are two very different people, right? And in a partnership, two very different people coming together. And triggers are going to happen. They're going to happen because you both have such a unique upbringing. Even
Mm-hmm.
though you might be from the same culture, you still have your own needs. You still have your own, different family dynamics and your perception, your values. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. Everyone has their own triggers, and it is a mirror in front of your face because you live your life thinking that you are right
Mm.
until you meet that person and they're like, hey, you're not always right. And then it's like, oh, shoot. I've been living this life. I've been thinking I've been living in this world, being single or whatever previous relationship you might have. There's so many different things that we learn throughout the years of our life that we eventually get very set in our ways. And I think that person, if you want to call that person your soulmate or your the better half, I mean, everyone has their own unique definitions. That person comes into your life and teaches you, and that's when you have so much growth. And that growth also may mean pain in certain ways temporarily, but that person will always be your safe space and safe place for you to go to. And I think that I'm not talking about toxic situations. Obviously, you learn through those too, but you drift away. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about people who are meant to be together. That person will really come into your life showing you your true colors, and they'll make you a better person, and you'll want to improve yourself as well.
Mm. No, that makes sense. Absolutely. And it gets kind of tricky where, we in this podcast, I talk a lot about self-discovery. And some of my guests, we've talked about how we need this period of isolation, detached from the external world, kind of understand who we are, go on that self-discovery journey to see what we like, what we're meant to do in this lifetime versus just going by day, like
Yeah,
drifting through 9 to 5, and then
yeah,
weekends come in and things like that. And we also talk about relationships now, where we're talking about that our relationships are also the mirror, which also becomes a self-discovery journey. You're learning more
yeah.
about you through that relationship, right? It can get tricky in that way.
I would say each relationship does teach us on a deep level where it makes us better for the next partnership that we have.
Mm,
So,
mm,
a lot of times we might throw toxic relationships, but at the same time, someone can be defining us as toxic as well, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all learning and growing. And when you're young, you don't know what you're doing. You're just
mm.
trying to figure it out. And you're also trying to regulate your emotions. You're trying to, learn so much about yourself. It's a journey. So,
In my conversations with my friends and people that I've come across, when we talk about relationship, it always gets to the point, there's never a answer that satisfies everyone, right? Like what's good for me might
yeah,
be not so good for the other person. So the
totally.
definition of toxic or not good relationship is totally like
So
a,
unique. Yeah,
yes, so unique, individual, based on
yeah,
like individual perspective. And
yeah,
I like, based on my experience, I think how I would label something toxic would be like someone who isn't willing to work on themselves, like to improve themselves. Like, for
yeah,
example, like you said, emotional
yeah,
regulation. And
yeah.
I think that really takes a toll on like mental and emotional well-being. And when we get to that point, it could be toxic for us, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's tricky because sometimes the work that we are doing on ourselves at the moment, if we look back in life, even if we were trying, every single day we're growing up till this point, right? So it's tricky to even label label someone as, oh, they're not working on themselves, so maybe, you know, we can define that as toxic, because they might not even know what to do or where
Hmm.
to begin, right? Because we have answers at the moment because we've looked for the answers and we dug deep and we're figuring it out. Whereas, let's say a high school student who's in a relationship has no clue where to even begin at that moment. How do they even regulate their emotions? Because they're still learning, they're still growing. And there's so many high school students who are in relationship nowadays. Generation has changed completely, and they're figuring it out, and they're going through heartbreaks, not knowing exactly what to do and how to control their emotions. And that's very, very common at that point. Is it even toxic, or is it just you have no clue what you're doing?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very well put together. Like, no, you said it right. I think I mean, I'm still understanding relationships, and I think I continue to just learn more, be better. Now I think
Yeah,
I'm at a point where instead of previously, I used to think about, okay, this friendship, this relationship, is it good for me? But
yeah,
now I'm at a point where I'm thinking, okay, am I a good person? Am I a good friend? Am I a good daughter, a sister, right?
of
So the
course.
focus has now changed to myself. I'm questioning myself as to, okay, I think this comes through one of this there's a YouTube videos that I was watching of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a neuroscientist, and he talks. I'm a big fan of his, and he talks about how we rewire brain, including relationships. And one of the things that he said was make a list of all the characteristic that you would want to find in an ideal romantic partner,
Yep.
and then now make sure that you have it. That's your only job.
And make sure you put that ego aside, because a lot of times people might be like, I have this, I have that, but hey, do you really though?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
did make the list and I said, okay, I have a lot to work on. So let's just do that for
Oh.
now. But
Yeah,
yeah.
no, and I think it's also giving yourself grace, because sometimes we're hard on ourselves and we don't acknowledge all the aspects of our life where we've really made a lot of improvement. And I think also remembering those things, right? Like, yes, we always have some certain things to improve on, but at the same time, also focusing on the qualities that the other person will appreciate about you and what you have to offer, right?
Mhm, mhm. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful perspective. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful perspective. And I think, going back to your example of high school relationships, I feel that the relationship today has evolved at a much faster pace.
Yeah.
Like if I
Yeah.
see my parents' relationship, all they wanted was a loving husband-wife relationship, and they derived happiness from their kids and their probably grandkids. And today, I think the expectations that we have from a partner, vice versa, is so much
Oh,
that we
yeah.
want this one specific person to be the best friend, to be a romantic partner, to be a mentor, to be a therapist. I feel like there's so much burden to derive happiness out of that relationship.
Yeah.
What do you think, in your experience, some tips to our listeners that they can start applying today to heal their relationships and gain more happiness out of their relationships?
I would say, going back to regulating your emotions and doing the things that make you happy and not giving up yourself just because you're with another person. I think
Mhm.
oftentimes, I'm sure you've experienced this, and I've had, friends experience this, where you'll find that a friend will get into a relationship and they'll just completely forget about themselves, or they'll go MIA. And I'm like, hey, where are you? I miss you. What's going on? And I think it's super important to not forget yourself. And that's the biggest tip, because loving yourself is a lifelong journey, and you're going to live with yourself for the rest of your life. Yes, this partner is an added cherry on top, and you love this partner and you're so excited to have this person in your life. However, you are going to live with yourself forever. I can't, I'm just going to put a lot of emphasis on that. Never forget about the things that you love to do.
Mm,
If you loved doing certain things prior to being in that relationship, continue doing those things, because your partner will always respect you then, and you will have a flourishing relationship forever. And I genuinely believe that, because a lot of times we forget ourselves, we get so caught up in taking things so seriously, and as you mentioned, so much energy into expectation of, you need to do this, you have to be this person, you have to be that person. That's not fair for the other person, right? Because they're also trying to have a good time and live their life and enjoy. And then one other big tip would be scientific based. Um, Happy relationships, when you're arguing, you fix them with laughter. And that is the toughest thing to do at times, right? Because you're angry, you're triggered, you're frustrated, but you have to take things lightly. When you're able to just go with the flow and appreciate the good things about your partner and enjoy each other's silence, magic can happen. And again, I'm also learning these things at the moment. Obviously, with my partner and I, we both have our own triggers. We both have our own, certain things that might irritate us and stuff. But just really focusing on gratitude every single day, as tough as that sounds, like appreciating wholeheartedly, what do I love about this person, and why did I initially get with this person, will keep you happier in the long run.
mm. No, I think those are really nice tips, especially when you mention, if you are in a relationship, don't forget to have a life of your own and
Mhm.
continue to have your friends and pursue the passions that make you
Yeah,
happy, and
yeah,
not just depend on the partner for
right.
everything. And this is something that I've learned so far as well, to never give up friendships, to prioritize a romantic relationships, because now that I look back, I feel that I I didn't invest in a lot of friendships.
Happens, yeah. No, and it happens to the best of us, right? Especially in the beginning of the relationship, when you're with someone, you're super excited to get to know that person. And your friends have been there for a while, so nothing exciting about your friends, right? So it happens where you're like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm getting to know this new person. So at least for the first, I don't want to put a timeline on it, but for everyone, it's different. 1 month or 6 months, whatever it might be. You're going to have to get to know the other person, and your true friends will also understand. They will be
Mm,
there for you, and they'll understand that you're at this point in your life, you're looking for someone serious. And yeah, never forget your true friends. Your friends are there. The real people are going to be there for you through thick and thin, so always keep them close to your heart.
mm, No, that's so true. That's very
Yeah.
true. Let me ask you about handling conflict in relationships, right? Conflict's very natural. It's a natural part of any relationship. And one thing that I've learned from my romantic relationship in past is that instead of asking, do you love me, or I love you, or things like that, the major question that couples should be asking is, how are we going to handle conflict? How are we going to fight, right? How are we going to disagree in a healthy way?
Yeah.
And basically, how are we going to resolve problems? So I think the topic of handling conflict always becomes that crucial part of thriving in any relationship. What's your take on, any conflict that arises in a relationship, and what do you recommend to people in terms of handling conflict in any relationship?
So the truth is that that's a great question. The truth is that you are only in control of your own emotions, right? You have no idea what the other person's thinking. The way the other person reacts is not what you can control. You can only control yourself. So I would say drop the ego
Mm,
and be the bigger person. And if you know, I think everyone has the awareness to know when things are escalating. So when they start escalating, be the bigger person and cut it off.
mm,
And I'll give you an example. My partner and I were talking about something just the other day, and it was kind of turning into like a argument, a little back and forth. And then I just change the topic. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really don't want to argue. I want to have a good time today. I just, I don't want to be stressed. I don't want us to do this back and forth. Let's just let it be. And it just took that awareness. And he was also like, same here. I don't want to argue either. And,
Mm,
we dropped the topic and we just kind of shifted gears. And obviously, there are certain important topics sometimes that will arise and you discuss them, and but there should be a little timing, right? Like where, we can talk about this another time when we're in a better mood. Right now we're both irritable, we're both hungry. So a lot of
mm,
times arguments happen because you're hungry. So it's like you go eat your dinner and then after that you can have a normal conversation. A lot of the times it's simple little petty things. And
mm,
is it even worth wasting our time? I think just questioning yourself. And no one wants to feel crappy, and if you don't want to feel crappy, then be the bigger person and just let it go. And again, it's really easy to say, but during that moment, as we've been talking, triggers and, hurtful comments, things can come up. But yeah, I think practice makes perfect, where eventually you keep practicing that. Just, okay, you know what? I want to be happy.
mm,
I want to feel good emotions, and just reminding yourself that every day.
mm,
The issue is that a lot of us have ego, right? And ego is
mm,
something that we pretty much will have forever. And the only thing we can do is learn to have less of an ego.
mm,
And a lot of times, often relationships break off because of ego. You get into
mm,
arguments and you don't want to back down. The other person doesn't want to back down either. And, not creating boundaries. So all of these things are super, super important in order to be in a healthy relationship.
that constant need of the need to be right, like
Hmm.
when we say like, oh, I'm right or you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
those things really hurt relationships. Like even the best of the relationship might just end because of the fact you said, like the ego and the pride, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I want to pivot our conversation a little bit towards, today's age of digital age, right? How relationships that we see online. So social media kind of paints this picture of ideal relationships, and I think it impacts probably mostly the romantic relationships. How do you see this technology today impacting the relationships that we have, especially the romantic relationships, and how does it impact, positively and negatively?
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, positively and negatively, I mean, there's pros and cons to it for sure. Like, there's a lot that we can learn through social media, and, like, we can spread a lot of awareness and truth. But at the same time, there's also that negative aspect of it where you start comparing yourself to other people, and that tends to happen. Where I've had people tell me, oh, this person looks so happy in their relationship and they're always posting their pictures and videos and things like that. And next thing you know, they end up getting a divorce after like a year or 2 years. So it's like, you can't focus on other people's life and compare your relationship to anyone else's. You and your partner, you have your own thing going on. And um whatever people might put on social media might not even be true. So why
Mm,
even waste your time thinking about that? And, be happy for others. And if others are, doing a great job in their relationship, absolutely spread the happiness and genuinely feel good for others. But at the same time, why waste your time comparing or thinking that, oh, I wish we had this, or he bought her like millions of flowers, what about me? I mean, it's okay to joke around about these things, but, social media portrays like, a guy buying this girl a diamond necklace quite often, and, like, buying her Louis Vuittons and things like that. And it's just like, what's important to you? If that's
mm,
important to you, wonderful. That's what you're going to attract in your life, and I hope you do. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out what matters to you. What are your values? If, genuine connection, loyalty, happiness, those are the things that matter to you, then stop looking or seeking elsewhere, and work on yourself, as we discussed earlier, and then you'll attract the right partner.
no, that's really, really true. I totally agree with everything you said. So those are the two questions that I have started to ask all of my guests. Let me start with the first one. So what is one practice or habit that has been essential in helping you stay aligned with your true self?
Yeah, I would say taking deep breaths, and like, a lot of people talk about that, but at the same time, I think just reminding ourselves to take deep breaths and be grateful of every single day and the people that we have around.
Hmm.
Recently I've just been taking deep breaths and just looking at looking at the sky and just being very grateful for everything that I have, and having all the friends I have, mom and dad alive and healthy, and brother, and just all of those things, and an amazing fiance, and yeah, just really, really being grateful. And when you're grateful, um, magic happens.
I love
Yeah,
it. And you're
yeah.
in SoCal, so I'm sure that, there's amazing sunsets and
Oh
beaches
yeah,
to
yeah,
take that
yeah.
fresh breath air.
Absolutely. Sunset every day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so next question. If you could share three ingredients to help someone reset the recipe of their life, what would it be? Now, it could be in the area of relationship, personal
Yeah.
growth, any area.
Yeah. I would say the first one is to make others around you happy,
Mm-hmm.
because that will make you happy in return, and you know longer life, and just spreading joy. That's the first one. And number two, again, going back to being grateful. A lot of people talk about being grateful and it gets thrown around a lot. However, genuinely feeling what you're grateful for, like, I am so happy, being very detailed about it, like, I am so happy that I woke up today and made this cup of coffee and added cinnamon to it, and it was just delicious. Like, just about little things like that, just saying it out loud. And when you start saying these things out loud, you'll eventually become a happier person. And number three is trying your best to exercise regularly. Um,
Mm,
it's one of the toughest things. I'm working on it as well. I'll exercise, like, twice a week, and then I'll slip off a bit, but just any sort of movement every single day, like whether it's like going for a walk, and doing your yoga, whatever makes you very happy. There has to be one form of exercise that genuinely makes you happy, whether it's waking up and dancing. Just
mm,
do it.
yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
totally agree. And movement and being in nature is absolutely the most healing thing that I've ever done. I mean, we've been doing it since we were kids, but now I've learned to admire and be grateful for
Yeah.
those things even more.
Definitely. Same here, same here. Like, I just need to get out and just see, flowers and trees, and it's just, appreciating the beauty around you.
And I think you brought up a great point. Dancing is something that I've been trying to learn
Yeah.
because, like this weekend, we have 3 visits of heat in the Roseville, Sacramento area, and I've been indoor for the whole weekend, and so I thought, like, okay, learning dancing would be cool just to make up
Yeah.
that exercise or going to gym that I missed. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like every time, same, goes for me. I want to learn to dance even more. I love freestyling and just having fun, playing my favorite music.
Mhm.
Every time I do it, I'm so much happier after I danced even for like a minute. So I'm like, why can't I do that every single day? Like, what's stopping me? We just get
Mm.
so caught up, with our day to day. But, I was on a podcast with an author earlier, and she said everyone can add at least 10 minutes into their life every single day to do what they love to do,
Mm.
which is
Yes.
absolutely true. We have no excuses.
No excuses. If only we reduce that screen time scrolling in
Yeah,
social media, I think we can easily find 10
yeah,
minutes, right?
100%, 100%. It's a lifelong journey. It's not easy. And like, also giving yourself grace that, you have the awareness. Some people don't even have the awareness. Yeah,
So true.
yeah,
Self-awareness, so true.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, Sunaina, before I let you go,
yeah,
tell us where we can find you, well, the audience can find you to connect with
yeah.
you.
Absolutely, thank you. So my page on Instagram is called The Love Atlas, and my YouTube channel is also The Love Atlas. I also have a TikTok, same, The Love Atlas. And yeah, so, find me there. And I'm also willing to, take clients at the moment. I am coaching for free since I'm getting started on this journey. And yeah, looking forward to and excited.
Okay, and I will be putting all those links in the show notes below so our audience can find you and connect with you further. But this has been
Awesome.
so great. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
chatting with me. I had an amazing time.
Thank you. Same here. I felt like I was talking to one of my best friends. I loved it so much.
Oh, so adorable. Thank you. I know
Of course.
we'll definitely need to have another session. It's not enough time, but
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. It's nice connecting with like-minded people. I am loving this journey and I'm super happy for you as well.
Oh, oh my God. Yes, thank you so much. Yes,
Of
I'm
course.
really grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me this week on the Reset Mantra. I am Sabina Maharjan. Join me again next week, and in the meantime, please subscribe and leave me a review. If you have someone who you think will be great on the show, please get in touch and find me and the podcast on Instagram at I am Sabina Maharjan and at the Reset Mantra. I'm so looking forward to next week, and I'll catch you then.